I am Nick.
I'm Sasha.
And this has been the Chaos Twins. Oh, hi, Sasha.
Yo, what's up?
Not much. What's up with you, my friend?
Nick, I'm going to be very honest. I really don't have a lot of faith in my internet connection right now. So,
that's fine.
Just to be aware.
You do what Sasha, I'm so aware of it. And not only am I aware of it, but you know who else is aware of it? Beyonce Britt in the studio is aware of it. You know what I mean?
Fair.
And we're going to make it work. It's going to be fine. You know why? Because this is chaos.
I think it's okay.
So, like, it's going to be great. If the worst that happens, chaos. If the worst that happens is people got to talk to me, just me for like 5 minutes, they will log off. Like, people will not stay on.
If that happens, I apologize to the community at large for that.
You really should. People should be aware that if that does happen, it's not going to be a good show. It will be really trash. But that's fine. Welcome to the Chaos Twins. You know, that's Sasha. I'm Nick. We're here.
But in any
case, we're here doing the doobly doo. So, Sasha, this is a big week, and I just wanted to really quickly touch on this before we get to our segments. We have an amazing guest today, but like this has been a big week, big old week. How you feeling about that? About that week?
See, this is where I don't know. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me right now. I love that. So,
and I don't
Sasha,
know if it's me or you.
Beyonce Britt.
Is it me?
Is it Sasha? It's
okay,
Sasha.
It's me.
Get out of here. Get out. You can't hear. Yeah, she's gone. Guys, it's just you and me. It's just you and me today. Here's the deal. It's been a first of all, somebody I wish we got a screen grab of that of Sasha just frozen, but she's gone. So, first of all, it's been a big old week. And I don't know how y'all are feeling about this, but I'm feeling a little emotional. People in the chat already going crazy. Judy saying, "Do not leave us alone with Nick." I'm so sorry that this is happening. This is terrible. You mean like nobody should be left alone with me? But I do want to say that like I hope that you guys are taking care of yourselves right now because this week has been. Oh, Sasha, you back? Let's see.
All right now.
Are you back? Can you hear me? Nope. Dumping her out again. Chaos. Perfect chaos. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope that you are finding time to rest and relax and just be, because this is big. And I found myself yesterday just going through it, just kind of having to process everything that I was seeing, everything that I was feeling, and I still don't know how to feel. There was a wonderful thing that happened in terms of acknowledging this man's murder. And then there were more horrible things that happened right after that that we're still finding out about. So, you good? She's back. That's what we want.
Don't you love it when chaos hits at 4 p.m.?
That's when it should hit. That's the witching hour. But
like truly terrifying. I never want to get that on a party invitation.
Yeah, don't
I won't leave you alone with Nick. I promise. Like I've got options. I've got connections. I don't know. I will.
All I was saying before you dipped out was that I hope everyone's taking the time to process what happened yesterday, because yesterday was a very big day with a lot of emotions and a lot of things to think about. So are you processing? Are you finding space for yourself to just kind of like breathe out and do what you got to do, or how are you feeling?
Yeah. No, I'm definitely doing that. Was relieved by the verdict. I saw a tweet talking about how one thing that was very telling about the experience of Black people in America was the doubt, like right before the verdict. You know, just that feeling of like it could not be that, and the absurdity that could be true, but that it has been true so many times before. And and then in the midst of this trial, we've lost lives. We lost a 16-year-old young girl yesterday. It's just too much. There's a lot to be done. And I hope what I was thinking and hoping for people engaging with this. And I thought too, Nick, like this is around the time that we started doing the show or started taking on these kinds of topics last year. And I just hope that people have a moment to think about where you were a year ago Think about the things you've read, the opportunities in which you've engaged, the conversations you've tried to have, the deep dives that you've hopefully been doing. And you keep doing that. And you keep moving and you keep plugging in and you keep finding places to work. Because, you know, we are making progress, but it's slow and it's painful. And there's a lot of actual lives at stake. So, yeah, I'm okay. Part of my securing my perimeter. Should we go into secure the perimeter? Should we, now that I've secured my internet connection, should we secure the perimeter?
Let's secure it. Secure the perimeter.
Secure the perimeter. Secure the perimeter.
I regret that every time I see it.
I really like it.
I really. It doesn't for a segment that's about securing our perimeter. That doesn't make me feel safe.
Exactly, because you are not. Like, people need to continue to secure the perimeter. How have you secured the perimeter, Nikki Walks? How are you doing? How are you doing since yesterday, this week?
You know, there's something that was said on this show. Back on our Black Lady Magic episode by Tanya. She was talking about the idea that one of the most revolutionary acts you can do is to ask someone what they mean by that. And that is a lot of how I've honestly, I mean that consistently this week. There's a lot of emotions flying, especially in our Broadway community. There's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions about a lot of things, and all of those opinions have them. My God, have them. My God, stay in the fight. The last thing I want is to, you know, Kimberly was talking about this. We cannot be gatekeepers of people's revolution, right? We cannot be the people to say this is how you do it and this isn't how you do it. All we can say is how it makes us feel, right? And there's been some people who've put out things that have made me feel less than comfortable and energized. And rather than jumping to the immediacy of judging that person's tactics or even that person's intentions, asking them what they mean. So I've been really doing a thing where I've been trying to find people that I don't necessarily understand where they're coming from, or what they have said has put me in a way, has made me feel a certain way. And just very blatant, like, not with any agenda, just be like, hey, I would love to talk to you about this. I really want to know what you want from this, why this method is the best in your mind. And honestly, coming from a place of trying to learn, right? Making no judgment, because I don't freaking know what's going to save this country or this industry. I don't know. Nobody does. Anybody who says they do is lying, right? So, like, it behooves us to learn everything. So that's long story short. That's a big way. It's just asking more questions. Really, really have been committing to asking questions, and in that, my perimeter feels more secure, just because I think we are always so scared of what we don't know. Right? What we don't know, that's when the snap judgment happens. That's when we try to go and do the thing and approach the thing and say, well, this is this, and I'm going to treat you like this. And that's how people get killed on the street. And so my perimeter feels more secure because I'm understanding more about what's outside my perimeter. Right? And so my perimeter can then
that's deep, Nick. That's like very meta. Like, your secured perimeter it's just opening up.
Do you see
it's opening up?
It's opening up.
It's permeable with ideas.
The focus on my camera. Like the focus on my camera.
I don't like it when you play with the autofocus on your camera. It's really strange. And
like that?
Yeah, it's too much. I love that. I think that's really important. I remember I read Kimberly's post. I think you were kind of, you had posted something similar just about like how to get through this and the choices people make. And then I'm just going to do like a really quick little shout out to Grey's Anatomy this week, or last Thursday. They did an episode around protests and Black Lives Matter, but there was like, you know, it was going through all of these African-American or, you know, Black characters going through protests and trying to deal with everything while also dealing with their jobs. Like, right. Like, they are, you know, trauma surgeons, they are general surgeons, they are doctors, they are whatever. So they're going through all of this. And one of the characters makes a speech, and he's just, or a monologue speech, but he's talking to, you know, someone, and he says, you know, I don't judge how anyone deals with this, what's going on. Because someone is feeling guilty for not marching. Someone else is feeling guilty for, like leaving work. Like, what do you do? He was like, I don't judge how anybody does this, especially Black people. I don't judge how you'd have to deal with this. So I think that openness to what you need to do to engage, even if that means disengaging for a second. Yeah. I will do, so my secure the perimeter, this came from Nick, from things that he's heard me be very loud about recently. Yeah, and so as the statement given to me by Nick Walker is that I've decided that I'd be getting paid for any and all consultations from here on out, including my text threads with Nick. I think there's a lot of people seeking advice about the very thing, which is very pertinent to our episode today, because the very service that our guest provides at a cost. Like, it is a skill. It is a skill that is valuable and you should be paid for. And I just want to encourage those who are engaging in this work to really start thinking about the service that you're doing and do not burn yourself out working for free for entities that probably have the resources to pay for the services for which they are asking. So that is I'm like really evaluating. I have plenty of places where I engage and I offer time, I offer discounted rates. But I'm trying to work and live and breathe as a Black woman in this society. And there are times where I do evaluate, okay, well, where does this buck stop? And if that person is not willing to pay, and I know that they do have the commercial means to do so, then you really have to decide, I challenge you to, think about, what are you getting? Is it training? Is it experience? Is it connections? Is it networking? Maybe it's not cash. Is it opportunities to teach something else? Like, that's all, well and good. But just make sure you can something. But okay, but what I will also, just a quick tag onto that, is both back to what you were saying about, so yesterday we get the news that, the verdict's coming in, and I just felt like, woof, just ground is about to shift, and I don't know how. And I put out a social, and I was in a meeting, and I just was like, get grounded. And for me, I have been visiting home, and I had the ability to go outside and take my shoes off and put my feet in the grass. And it was glorious, and just sit and really take in the wind through the trees, and just, it was 5 minutes, but wind through the trees and just the sound of things changing and moving. And that one thing I was getting from that, I talk about meditating. I'm like, oh, I meditated this week. And I was like, let me be a little bit more specific about that. So I want to commit to, and this also goes along with some of the conversations definitely happening. There's a march on Broadway happening on tomorrow. And a lot of people with a lot of questions, a lot of frustrations, and a lot of grievances. And I think for me, the check for myself has been, and we'll talk more about this with our guest, is that to make sure that the way in which I'm trying to engage with change, reform, retrofits, accountability, and, for myself and from others, is to make sure that it's healing as possible for all parties involved. That it is things like restorative, that it is transformative, so that we're not looking at individuals, because individuals can be products of a system. And if you have not fixed the structure in the system, then you are still enabling the next person and the next person and the next person to commit harm, which is, we have one individual who was committed of murder yesterday, and we still have a system that has killed at least one person from police brutality since every day this year. We still, we still have a system that allows this. And so as much as it can feel good to pinpoint and have, and as much as it is necessary to exercise that, to make sure that what I'm really being critical of and what I'm committing to are processes and approaches that encourage healing and our healing spaces, because I don't want this work to destroy me.
And I love Sasha. And I want to bring our guests on because our guest, we have truly an amazing person today. But I do want to affirm what you just said, because I think that's going back to my secure the perimeter. That is the thing that often when I do have questions about somebody's interactions, it's when it feels more like something that's personal as opposed to something that's going at the system of the thing, or going at the structure in which a personal attack was held, right? Derek Chauvin messed up. Derek Chauvin killed somebody, and we need to hold Derek Chauvin accountable. But Derek Chauvin is not the United States of America, founded on the backs of slaves in 1619. Right. Do you mean so? Like, Derek Chauvin is a symptom of a larger problem, and I feel that is one thing that we need to do, is to remember to keep stepping back. Everything that's happening, even the Scott Rudin of it all, is about the American system. And I love that. I love that that is something you're looking into. I think it's great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our tag 'em.
Speaking of the American system.
Speaking of American systems, corporations are people too, and we can prove it. They are writing letters. Amazon, BlackRock, Google, Warren Buffett, hundreds of other companies. This is have signed a new statement, and this is not as new right now, but we're talking about the relationship between some of these structures and corporations today to liberation, if it can be. Can it be connected? I don't know. But they signed a new statement opposing any discriminatory legislation that would make it harder for people to vote. This is in reference to the Georgia voting law just passed. It's a hot mess. And what was notable about this were people who didn't sign: Coca-Cola, Delta, JP Morgan, Chase, and Tyler Perry, side-eye emoji. But the big question in the New York Times last week was, why didn't Walmart sign? Walmart. The retailer's CEO, Doug McMillan, said he also chairs the influential Business Roundtable lobby group. I sent a note to employees to explain the company's position. He said, we are not in the business of partisan politics. All right. While our government relations team have historically focused on core business issues like tax policy or government regulation, aka money, Walmart and other major employers are increasingly being asked to weigh in on broader societal issues like civil rights, and we don't know what to do. That last part was just me. The company didn't sign the statement, but we do want to be clear that we believe broad participation and trust in the election process are vital to its integrity. So at Walmart, what's good?
What's up?
Hashtag savings. What are you saving?
I hate that hashtag. Oh, I hate that hashtag.
Oh, goddamn. Why are we we're using their power back against them?
I don't know. It depends on what you want to save.
No, depends on what you want to say. And I think and what hurts me about the list that we just said. So I am a Delta Sky Club aficionado. Chase is my bank. Like these are certain services that I use that are saying that, like, potentially people who look like me should not be allowed to vote, or should only be allowed to vote in the manner in which we say they are. And that's, to me, it's not a what I find so amazing about Walmart's statement is what you're doing, the refusal to get involved, the refusal to engage in that policy is in fact what we're talking about, right? Because we're being very clear that this comes from a place of deficit, right? We're not saying like we want bonuses. We're saying people are being stopped from voting. That's an American right. Help people vote. And they're saying no. Sasha, did you hear? Oh, I think Sasha blinked out again. Or is it me? Brittany, is it me or Sasha?
Are you here? No, I can hear you now.
Amazing. I love that. But yeah, point being, Walmart, hashtag savings. That's all I got to say. Hashtag savings, man. Get those savings in. They're really important. Super important.
Super important. New ones every day.
I love savings.
Let's move on. You take us into our next segment. I'm going to figure out why my headphones are on.
You go. So our next segment is our amazing guest, and that is Amber Cabral. Amber Cabral is an inclusion and diversity consultant and CEO at Cabral Co, formerly a diversity strategist at Walmart Stores Incorporated. Amber founded Cabral Co to guide organizations of various size and scope seeking to create and execute strategies that achieve sustainable, inclusive behavior shifts in the workplace. Let's bring on the Amber. Let's bring on the video.
So the training is easy, it's super engaging. I use a lot of real life examples.
Our differences are valuable. They're important.
All that connections, relationships, and people come down to is being inclusive. You learn and grow by saying yes to things that make you uncomfortable. You're multifaceted and dimensioned and, all of these things. How do I pick from all of these things? But when you see others, you tend to give them one. We do that to other people. They do that to us.
Amber, what up?
It's never not weird to watch yourself.
I was actually going to ask you about that because I'm like, that video in particular. We have very lucky to have baller people on this show, but that video in particular, like you just doing stuff, like you just going in. Like, is that weird for you to be like, oh snap, like I actually like have accomplished quite a bit. Like
It's weird. It's weird. It's just weird to watch myself. Like whatever it is, like in the moment when you're doing the stuff, it feels like I'm just doing my job. You know what I mean? But like when you go back and someone plays a video, I don't watch my own videos. I have people that watch them and tell me if they're good or not. And then I'll watch it when it's like almost final and that's it. Cause I really just don't. So I was like, oh, I have to watch this. And I normally don't watch it. So it was eye opening. I probably, I can't say I'll do more of it, but
listen. I just hope whoever your people are, I hope they are very proud of everything you're doing because you are doing a lot and you've done a lot and you continue to do a lot. So incredible work, man. Incredible.
I hope so too.
Absolutely, I know. Yeah, but no, we are so honored to have you here. We are so honored to have you here. Sasha even came back. She fixed her internet. She came back for you.
I'm so grateful.
Who can back?
Grateful too,
guys. It's just it's all shifting. It's all constantly changing.
It is the chaos of it all. Paris and Africa. It's all changing. It's all coming back to it's a joke from earlier. You guys won't get it.
It is. I actually have a book on my shelf that's called Africa in Paris, which makes this even funnier. But
perfect.
Joke for another time.
Exactly. We'll explain it later. Just ask us later. We'll explain it later.
Right.
But no, we wanted to ask you, obviously, again, you have such a resume of amazing just activism and inclusion work and all this stuff. We wanted to start at the Mount Everest of this, right? The height, the power, the glory. Walmart. What's going on? You worked at Walmart. You were there for like 6 years. Like, what are there midnight sales? Like, are there snacks that they give you? Like, what's up with Walmart? Please.
Yeah. I don't even know what you really want to know exactly. I was there 6 years. My first 4 years, I worked remotely. I lived in Georgia. I started out, I was responsible for the global mentoring program there. Mm-hmm. So basically, everything mentoring from executive on down. I helped to build content, resources, direction for that. I then transitioned and had the intern program, which was great because it let me get closer to what I really wanted to do, which was diversity work. I mean, mentoring allowed that too, but this gave me like people. And so, so I did that for a few years, and then I transitioned and did culture strategy, which ended up landing me in diversity strategy. And so that's what I did for the company. But what do you want to know, though?
No, but so that's kind of our. I mean, you actually kind of answered it, but that was kind of our big question with it was that a natural progression for you, right? Because you're coming into a company that, like, again, when I think Walmart, and again, this is no judgment on Walmart, hashtag savings, but when I think Walmart, I'm not thinking of global talent, like diversity, inclusion, or any of the things you just said. So like, you carving out that niche in Walmart, what was that? Just something that you were like, yo, we gotta fix some things? Or was it just like, okay, doors are opening up, let me see what's behind
Oh,
this
it was
one
kind of
behind this
both,
one.
if I'm just being honest. Like, I don't think anyone that I've ever worked for or with would deny that I am pushy, and it has worked in my favor sometimes and not in
Good for
others.
you.
And so I would venture to say, if there are any Walmart associates that are listening, or if any happen to tune into this, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember her. Remember that. There's a story somewhere, and it may or may not be a great one. But I do make a point to make an impact. And so when I joined the organization and I had responsibility for mentoring, I understood mentoring at that time to be a big part of like how people get access to opportunity. And that mattered to me. So I was like, oh, this is the biggest company in the history of the world. Yeah, we should do that. And so, so it felt like the right opportunity for me to make an impact. And then pretty much every role after that. So when I got interns, it was, oh, this is what we're doing with interns. Well, this is how it can be better. This is how it can be more equitable. This is how it can be more inclusive. This is how you can be more attractive to diverse identities, right? And so, because it's both sides, it's not going to where that talent is, and also, you know, not necessarily being attractive to that talent. And so how do we create both sides of that equation? So I was able to work on that. I think creating opportunities to have access to diverse folks has always kind of rested at the center of what I've done. And so I took that to the intern program. I took that to when we were like, oh, the company culture needs to be different. Like that was a part of that as well, which is why when that project graduated, it landed me in diversity strategy, because I was like, but wait, what about these folks? Oh, if these folks don't have anything, I mean, it's great that y'all have it, but what about these folks? You know, and so, I was always a champion for that, you know, potentially to my demise, but ultimately, it was in every aspect of every job I ever did for Walmart Stores, Inc.
But that's, I want to just affirm that as casually as you say that is a huge thing. To come into a company, and even on a small level, you know, be like, hey, we can do that better.
My question, like, was this pre-existing, like this diversity and inclusion work, or is this something that you?
I mean, no. Let me be clear. There was a diversity team. There was diversity work happening. The work that I was leading while I was there was launched while I was there. The mentoring tools and things that were there were created when I was there. The way the intern program worked while I was there was developed while I was there. So I am a good starter. From what I understand, a number of the things that I started, the company still uses. I'm very happy to see that. Sometimes I walk into a Walmart and I'll see like a sandwich board that I was like, oh, I was in the meeting when that happened, you know? And so it's like, there are things that I still see that are in use. And to me, that says I did a good job. And so I can appreciate that opportunity to do that. And I mean, for whatever side of the fence or whatever position people, you know, have on Walmart, I definitely had one before I joined the company that was definitely impacted by me being there. It's a huge company. It touches a lot of people. And when we get down to what's going to make the changes, it's got to be the people being different, all the people. And so I really enjoyed having the ability to create programs, access, opportunity, all that stuff that could touch so many people. And I did that at every time they gave me a chance. Anytime somebody handed me a mic, you know, I was like, all right, let's do it. So, it was a great, fertile training ground. Definitely the hardest corporate experience I've ever had, but also I learned some of the most valuable things I use to this day working at Walmart. So scale, just because it's so big. It's so big. It's a big company.
It's a huge company.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, we're going to go to your Big Bang moment. I'm going to go to your Big Bang moment.
Okay.
Big Bang scientists describe as the inciting incident for the entirety of the universe. Obviously, your life and most lives have had several. But if you had to choose one, what was a singular event that put you on the path for your life's work thus far?
Ooh, leaving Walmart.
That's my next question. Why did you leave? What happened? What can you tell us?
I can share. So just, you know, to be very candid, company reorgs regularly. It's a huge company. And they were going to shift where my role was going to be in the company, what I had control. So essentially my job would have gone from being like over one part of diversity to another, and then they were demoting the role, so that means I would have had to reapply for it. So I was offered the opportunity to, take a package, and I did. I also took a package at the same time. I was going through a really bad breakup, and I was ready to get out of Northwest Arkansas. It was just a lot, and it was a lot. It was a lot, and that was a tough year, but it was the best year, like in terms of me figuring out what I really wanted to do. I left Walmart with I had a ton of interviews before I even really left the company. I definitely knew, and people you would think a Walmart associate would go to. So like, Amazon and Facebook and Google and, it was people that you would expect someone that worked in Walmart corporate to, head to. And I just knew I was going to end up there. Like, okay, great. Next corporate opportunity. But the thing that was different was I had lived in Northwest Arkansas for 2 years, and I was so unhappy with so many things about that experience that I had very specific questions about what I wanted to get out of my next role. And everybody I interviewed with, I wasn't hearing it. I was like, yeah, no, that's not it. And I was clear, like, I'm already uncomfortable. I'm already unsure where I'm going to go. I got this little package. I'm going to ride it out and be discerning about what the next thing is. And I never found it. I said no to jobs. I didn't have a single job say no to me, thankfully. But I said no to jobs. And I ended up having a few folks that knew what I had done at Walmart or had seen my work in some other ways reach out to me like, wait, you're not working? Well, wait, don't you have a consulting company? Well, can you come do this for me? And so it was kind of an in-between time thing. I was doing consulting work really just till I figured out what my next company was going to be. And it ended up being my company. So it just turned out that way. I totally had no idea. I thought I was going to be like a little side solopreneur. I did not know I was building a business. I am still probably once a month, like, oh my God, people like trust me to work here. And like, that's bananas. But I love it. I love the capacity that I get to carry and the influence. And, it's the best decision and the best thing that ever happened. But boy, was it a struggle. I went through a lot to get to this place.
Well, and it's so funny because that's part of what we wanted to kind of talk about next was your consulting company. You have a consulting company and you just told us a little bit about how it came about, but like I guess my kind of deep dive and, question into that is, you are, as you said, you are striking out, you are doing this thing that is on your own. So like, I'm just interested when you're starting out, when it's coming about, is there any moment that just feels like, okay, I'm just out here without a net?
Yes.
Like just, okay. Yeah, like and how do you press through those? Yeah.
So and for me, okay, I'll just briefly tell the story. When I left Walmart, I didn't know, like I said, where I was going, what I was going to do. I ended up moving in with my godparents. I moved in. I slept on the theater room floor. I could have slept in like probably the guest room, but it was like I needed to be away from the people so that when I wanted to have my crying fits about why my life was unraveling, I could do that privately. And I put all my stuff in storage, and I just was like, all right, what are you going to do? So initially that was interview. And my godfather asked me, like, I swear once a week, like I would come to him and be like, oh God, I have this interview with such and such. Like, what do you think? And he'd listen and he'd go, okay, but what do you want to do? And I would be like, I don't want to keep sleeping on your floor. Like, what do you mean? Right. And he'd say like, well, you have time. So like, what do you want? And I would be like, yeah, I don't know. I want to not sleep on the floor. And after that question kind of kept happening, there was a point where it like finally clicked, like, no, you get to decide like what you want. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to go live in any of these cities that these jobs are in. And I don't really want to report this way. I want that title if I don't want this either. And so suddenly I started pulling myself out of interview processes and just making different decisions. And I remember vividly saying like, I'm just going to put up my website. Like people are hitting me upside, like on the side for work. And I've been doing diversity work for 20 years. Like it's been a long time. And at that point, I had lots of relationships, but I was like, well, I'm just going to put this website up and I'll stick it out on LinkedIn and see what happens. And so I put it out, stuck it on LinkedIn, and I started to kind of get a few questions, nothing really strong, but a few questions. And what happens is by the fall, I went to China because I needed to go somewhere where no one could talk to me. And I had a friend in China. And so I hopped around China a bit and explored. And then I came back and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to just see how this consulting business goes. And I remember vividly, I was on an interview with Google. I asked a question, which was about like development for the talent that would take the position. I didn't like the answer and I just couldn't even continue. I was like, I really appreciate you taking the time, but I recognize the value of time. And so I don't think I'm the right candidate for this opportunity. If I find someone that I think is, I'd be happy to pass them along to you. But this isn't a good fit for me. And so I'm going to go ahead and, we can go ahead and wrap up the call unless you have some feedback you'd like to share with me. And they were so caught off guard. Like, it was like, no, and that was it. Like, that was the last interview. A month later, I picked up a client that was huge. And I set a goal for myself that I don't even remember the dollar amount was, but I was like, if I have this amount in contracts by the end of January, I think it was, I'm never going back. And I had triple that or something like by that time. Like, so it was just, oh my God, like people want me to do this. And it's still like that. There are still moments where I'm standing in the middle of I am building a company. Like, this isn't just me anymore. Like, there are other people that like eat off of this job, and I'm like, wow, so it's always a moment like that. It's always very eye-opening and like, oh shoot, like people trust you. And, it makes me want to do a great job all the time. And so I just strive to do that every day. But it was bumpy. Like I said, I was sleeping on the floor. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I left from there and I went to DC and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to stay here for a couple of years. I just moved to Atlanta because I was like, I love living in Atlanta. Let's go back, so every step, every decision I get to make, everything that happens with this company, every new client that comes on, like, I look out my window, I see clients that are mine, like on Billboard. It's just mind blowing all the time. And I'm grateful that I'm here and that people trust me to do it, do what I do. But I also commit to do a great job because of that.
Yeah.
I'm very curious from your experience. I love hearing like just that you build the thing, in the air, like while it's happening. Yeah. And then like, people sort of like coming along and like this whole time you've had this company, but you're working for others. And what you're saying about some of the autonomy, it seems like you were seeking in like the positions and the ability to craft and things that you had maybe potentially had at Walmart, but then we're starting to get scaled down or controlled. There's like a mix in that, right? Like of being an outside consultant and running it your own way versus internal positions. Which, it's very hard to shift a system in which you exist. So, but maybe there are pros to that. Maybe there are cons to that. I'd love to know, your experience on both sides, pros and cons. And maybe ultimately, do you think one is more effective than the other, especially for some of the radical change I think that's being called for now?
Yeah. The simple answer is that both are necessary, but I think where people should be is a matter of personal opinion. No one is in my life who knows me is surprised that I run a company. Like, they're like, yeah, we knew it was, and I'm like, really? Like I wanted to go and punch a clock and get my check and continue. I didn't necessarily see myself as the person who would have like to figure out how to make a business run. Cause that's what you're doing. You're figuring out how to make a business run while you're doing the business of the business. And I didn't expect that, but I also don't think I could have done it had I not worked at the companies I worked for. Like, I had the opportunity to have visibility to how inside corporations work, how decisions are made, who needs to be influenced, what kinds of communications are the most effective, what tools people use. Like, it was just, there were so many little things, like how contracts are evaluated, what companies are going to push back on. Like, I learned so many little things that made it so that I could do this. So in terms of like getting things done, I think you have to have both. I think companies have a lot of power and influence and push things forward. And I think, Sasha, you even touched on some of this, when you were in your opening comments about your security perimeter. Like, there's a lot of things that big business shapes, right or wrong, right? That's how it works. And so long as that is the case, I think it's also important that you have the consultants that are out there like me that have the opportunity to go into the various businesses and glean, because we understand how corporations work in general, but we also know how you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it and all of that stuff. And so now I get to take that and go to this company and say, oh, wait a minute, there's a better way over here for you to do this thing. And perhaps you should benchmark with such and such. And let me, it gives you a lot of influence. Also, when you are outside of a company, you have a lot more liberty to say what needs to be said. Like, it's a lot easier for me to go into an organization and say, yeah, the approach here that you need to take is X, because I don't have to worry about the person I said that to putting it on my performance appraisal that I am too direct when I communicate, which, by the way, if you go look at any of my performance appraisals from Walmart, probably say that. And so, like, it's that thing that's necessary. It's like a checks and balances. And what I think that outside consultants do, particularly smaller consultants like me, like, larger consultancies obviously are also big businesses. So you get into an interesting conundrum there about what will be said. But for smaller businesses like me, I think you have a lot more autonomy in terms of what you can communicate and how it comes across, and, whether people will even hear you. A lot of the things that I do in my business now are things that I suggested in a number of the companies I worked for, but they didn't want to hear it. I didn't have the influence. I was not in the right position. You know what I mean? The process to getting my ideas to come to life was just one that wasn't going to work, but now that I'm here, I can tinker and I can try things and it can work or not work, and I can, I get a lot more space to do that. And people also listen a lot more. And it just so happens I'm good at a lot of what I do. So it works out to my benefit, where people are like, oh, that thing you did, come back, bring another one, and so I get to do that. And so for me, this is the better side. I will never, I can confidently say that I will never work for another corporation again in my life directly, but I will always work in service of corporations, because I think it gives you the ability to influence so many things and so many people. And if I can just get somebody's hearts and minds, to make some different decisions, it can just matter so much. And I really like having the ability to have that kind of access.
Mm.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. It really is crazy, because you can't, and this is a conversation that we're, point blank, that I think a lot of us are having in the Broadway community right now, the entertainment community. Can we enact the changes that we want to see while still getting the paycheck? And or not getting the paycheck in Broadway's case. But because it's in a coma, not because you don't pay us. But we're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic. Theater's not a thing right now. But I think that's a huge thing, right? Is where are we best positioned to do the work? And I think that the person who has the foresight to say, ooh, you know what? Even if it's just me, I think I can serve better outside of this thing than I can. That's a huge step. And you have served. I mean, you've done a ton of things. And one of the things I know we wanted to talk about was you've written so many articles. There was an article that came out, I believe it was February 1st of this year. And it was under the heading Mindfulness at Work, 6 Ways Diversity and Inclusion Will Change This Year. And you had some really amazing thoughts, and thoughts about just remote work and how it's provided companies with kind of this amazing flexibility and they can pull from all these talent pools. But you said one quote that I really wanted to just kind of dig into a little bit more, and I'm going to read it out for you. A word of caution on remote work diversifying talent pools, though. Bias, both unconscious and conscious, is still in play, and remote work allows it to take many forms. As interviews become largely virtual, discrimination against candidates on the basis of skin color and accents can still happen, but other judgments, like background visuals and sounds, can take center stage. So the whole article caught my eye, but that was one thing that I really loved to think about. Now, kind of tracking these. The only way I can describe them, and we put them in, for ourselves, was kind of like racism variants, right? Like this, like we talk about the variants of COVID, like this idea of like new forms of prejudice coming because we now have a new medium in which to work. Yep. And so, in your experience, kind of a 2-part question. How long are you seeing these variants, how long would you guess, or have you seen that it takes them to take shape? And then also, just like any other virus, because racism is a virus, how can we best track it? How can we best stop it, especially in this space which is so communal, right? And so fast. I know it's a big question, but I just wanted to kind of throw it at you, see what you think.
And when you say in this space, you mean like the virtual space?
The virtual space, yeah.
Yeah. So that is a big question. So first and foremost, we like neat, trackable things, and this isn't that. Like, as companies are starting to talk about going back to work, there are some companies that are like hybrid model, like you have to be here this many days and you can stay at home this many days. There are some companies that are like, if any department that's remote now, you can stay remote. We don't care. There are other companies that are like absolutely boots on the ground, like as soon as we're back. And so because of that, it's hard to really say, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of variance in the positioning that people are taking and what it even looks like. But in terms of how the bias shows up and when that's going to start to be something people can navigate responsibly, I think you're looking at least 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I think you're looking at least 3 or 4 years. And let me also say this. The bias isn't always like the bad, insidious, poisonous, terrible kind. Some of it is the passing remark, "Ooh, I didn't think about it like that" kind, right? And for people to just have a sense of like awareness and cognition that this is something I need to think about. I don't know that enough people are even considering. I mean, I've had people say to me, I live in a city, I live in the middle of a city, and there are fire trucks and, all kinds of sirens and horns and all kinds of stuff that happen. And I've literally had people say, what kind of neighborhood do you live in? Like, I keep hearing sirens. And I'm like, would you have said that if this face was something else? Like what is that? And so that, even though that's not necessarily intentional, right? It's a casual, almost lighthearted comment. And so I am of the opinion that 2 things for the changes to happen and for them to be accelerated, 2 things need to occur. One, the reason I wrote the article is because I think people need to start talking about it. I think you need to start talking about the fact that these are things that exist and figure out what we can do about them. Or at the very least, show people, hey, here's an example of what this can look like here. See how that's broken? Let's not do that anymore, okay? Like, let's have more discussions like that. And then also, I think that you have to have people who are willing to come up with alternative behaviors or suggestions. So I also tried to do that in the article where I'm like, here are the things that you can look forward to. Here are the ways that this is a benefit. Here is why this is useful. Because I think if you can understand the ways that I'm operating that are broken and then give me the ways I should be operating, then you can start to accelerate, I can get out of this habit or this trend. So while I don't necessarily have a time frame, when I think about the learning curve, when I'm with an organization, when I come in and they're like, all over, and then we start our little journey, it takes about 3 years or so before I'm like, oh, they're moving. And, I know that they're going to be more thoughtful about their decision making. I know they're going to catch some of the, the screw ups. I know they're going to be like, oh, we broke that, but we apologize for it. And here's how it sounded. It takes that amount of time to me for a company that is actively engaged in the stuff to happen. So I think it's going to take about that long. And then you had a part B to your question and I lost it because I said a lot of words right there.
No, you said brilliant words and you didn't lose it. Because that was my question was, the tracking of it and the stopping it, and you just said it. It seemed, from what you said, it seems like just like, literally like we do with a virus. You have to grow the antibodies. You have to know, what you're looking for, and in this new space, my cat is screeching to get up, so I'm going to bring him into the conversation.
Hi, Ferris.
Hey, cat.
Say hello.
Oh, look at you.
There's the
He's my
cat.
little baby. He's my little baby. It's
the weirdest cat I've ever witnessed, Amber. He's just so strange. Look how he's just hugging his neck. Like, what cat have you ever seen do that?
It's because he loves me. It's because he understands.
He does love you. There's no denying.
It's like honestly, Nick, if I had not, it looks like a puppet. Like, it's just like you've got a puppet cat.
That was amazing. That hug was really. Look at this.
I need that hug. I need that hug, Ferris.
He says, I love all people. That's right.
Look at you. That's so funny.
That's so like the commitment to 3 to 4 years, right? Like
Yes.
people want a 6-week workshop at this point. Like at this point, a 6-week workshop is what people think is necessary to change the culture in their company. And the commitment to 3 to 4 years to both external and internal, like, you know, checkpoints, accountabilities. I mean, truly, like I think that's
I want to
great.
say this. I want to say two things. You're right. It's a lot and people don't realize it. But like it takes you 2 to 3 years to lose 30 pounds. Like let's put it in context here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Like
I love
it takes time. You know, like you want to change a whole company full of people like that. It takes time. And the other thing is, like, I often tell clients, you know, like when they bring, first of all, we don't accept everybody as a client. Like you have to be willing to actually do the work. Like not just, oh, I can come in, give you a cute training. Great. That's nice. But like, I need to know that you have some plans. And that means like what you're trying to go from is we are doing inclusion to we are being inclusive. There is a difference. You know, doing inclusion is what's the right word to say? What shouldn't I say? Oh, wait, how do I address? Oh, wait a minute. Ramadan's coming. What should we be doing? Like, you know, like that, right? Versus being inclusive, which you show up, you are in your body, you're being thoughtful about how that space that you are inhabiting is being consumed, how that can impact those around you, how you can invite people in. And when you mess up, you're like, oh, my bad. What's the appropriate way? Because I realize I have it, you know, impeded on some space here. That's being inclusive. So like it's that journey that you're on. And that's not all training. That's how your communications sound. That's how your leaders lead. That's how you embed it into the way that you are evaluating talent. It's all of that. And you don't need me for all of that. In fact, I can't do it all for you because I don't know your culture, because you can get to retain some of that too. So yeah, it's a while. And like when people come up and they're like, yeah, give us the 6 core programs. We're like, no, we're not doing that.
Oh, that's a perfect segue for you to give us your 6 steps to allyship.
There you go.
We're going to play a game because you do have to distill this thing down into like information that people can take and apply. So we are going to take some principles, steps from your book, Allies and Advocacy. We're going to take some principles from there and we're going to pair it up against we're going to make it into a ballet, as you also are a part of Brown Girls Do Ballet, an incredible nonprofit that gives opportunity and resources to young Black dancers. So we're going to play this game. We'll talk a little bit more. Obviously, this is not, you know, we just said this is not inclusive or like this is not all inclusive, but equity, diversity, and inclusion, a ballet in 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. So here we go. Allyship is a process where someone with privilege and power seeks to learn about the experiences of a marginalized group of people, develops empathy for them, and identifies ways to extend their privilege to the marginalized group. This is Cabral Co. definitions. Here we go. So let's go to our game board.
Good Lord.
We will look at our first. We have a game board. We'll look at our first. Our first principle concept that Amber will talk to us about. Expect to be uncomfortable.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to be really quick. So there are 4 bullets up there, and I cannot talk through all of them, so I'll just call out.
They got to come. They got to go to the workshop. They got to hire you for the full thing.
It takes me 90 minutes to go through all this. Like I can't.
This is an advertisement.
So we're going to give you the short and dirty. I mean, so when I say expect to be uncomfortable, it's recognizing that like essentially growth comes from discomfort. You have to be willing to not be the most, you know, warm and fuzzy feeling all the time. We have this idea that we are entitled to comfort. When you are moving into being an ally or being a more inclusive human, you recognize that discomfort is an indication that you're working, all right? That there's some change coming. And the first principle has to be willing to be uncomfortable, which means you can't personalize everything. It's not about you. We're trying to navigate a system here. And so that would be the first one.
Oh, I love this. Expect to be uncomfortable, be willing. I love what you said about, you know, you're going to be uncomfortable. That's how you know you're growing. I can definitely relate to that as a dancer. And so we're going to equate this to some ballet coordinated. We're going to welcome Carrington and Kennedy Ben of the Jones Haywood Dance School. This was directed by friend of the show, Dion Figgins. And we will see that, you know, starting out, we just got a little simple plie tendu. Just a simple... Here we are.
Now, I want to point this out. I can't do anything they're doing, and this is the first step. I just want to point that out.
Look at that perfect second position. You saw that second position arm?
You
Look
see
at
what
that.
I'm saying? Like, that just like, yes.
I don't know what these words mean. I don't know what any of this means. This is going to be
Amber
so fun.
knows. Amber knows. All right. So moving on to number 2, another concept, step 2 to being a perfect ally. Make space for imperfection.
Yeah, so making space for imperfection is not about making space for others' imperfection. This is not telling you, give folks all the grace. Sure, you should do that. This is about making space for your own imperfection. Like those folks that are out in the world talking about, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to mess up. I'm not trying to be canceled. None of that is helping anybody. You got to get out there.
It's not helping.
It's not helping. You have to be willing to do the stuff. The way you find the space to do the stuff is you build relationships with folks that will tell you when you are breaking it. All right. So get out there, build some relationships with people that are not exactly like you. And that way, when you start to do things and learn how to navigate spaces that are not just folks like you, you'll have people that are willing to lean in and say, hey, wait a minute, this is a better approach. Not sure that's the way you should do that before, you know, you go out and do it irresponsibly on Twitter.
So let's go. There's a lot there. Let's go on to we're moving on to our passé développé écarté. Now, let me tell you something I've had to do in my ballet career is make a lot of space for me to be not perfect. The imperfections abound. These ladies are giving us some pretty near perfect demonstrations.
I don't know.
Here we have this passé. Here we are. We're moving, we're growing, we're stretching. Développé écarté. Yes, thank you, ladies. It's just beautiful. Growing and learning together. Here we are, number 3. Seek and expect feedback, because you're gonna get it.
You better get it. So here's the thing about feedback. We don't like it. We say we do, or some of us are honest enough to admit we don't. But like the reality is, you're never gonna figure out what you're doing wrong or what you're doing well unless you get some feedback. That's just how it goes. You can't figure it out yourself. You're not gonna know it all. Somebody sometimes has to tell you. And so one of the ways that you can show up as a better ally is by asking folks, how you doing? Be willing to seek feedback. Be purposeful about that. And by the way, I have to slide this in, even though it's a little bit extra. Please know how to apologize. And just as a tip on how to apologize, I apologize for. Moving forward, I will. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Moving forward, I'll be sure to say it correctly. If we could just get like companies and people to apologize better, for the, you know, the times that they, you know, have gotten feedback that they broke something, instead of being defensive, we would make leaps and bounds ahead. So, so that's seek and expect feedback.
Amazing. Seek and expect feedback. We're going to move on to our PK Arabesque, 4th position, double pirouette. We're really getting into it now, y'all. It's getting complicated, but if you just stay on task.
I'm so lost. I don't know.
Nick,
what do these words mean?
PK, look at the magic happening.
I'm watching
it. It's
it.
just we're putting it together.
It's so great. It's so great.
I think I wonder, like, the apology and the seek and expect feedback. I feels like that is just like you know, and the making space for imperfection is so connected to like what we see in like what we're, you know, call cancel culture, like trying to get somebody or like say like what you're persona non grata now, like, or you're beyond repair, is we just don't have a good relationship or a lot of trust or know how to say I'm sorry and take accountability. And that's what I kind of was talking about in the beginning, just having these systems where it's like, we got you. Like, it's okay. Like, you messed up. There's space. We're going to see and try to give you some more tools and see if you can come back a little better, a little stronger. You know, I don't know how many chances you get to do that, but like at least something to where like there's a space for accountability.
Yeah.
For being better.
I think the thing about that too is like really, it's a lot easier for people to actually forgive you and give you grace when you are willing to say, ooh, I broke it. Here's how I should fix it. Like, and too many folks' apologies sound a lot like, I didn't know, I didn't mean it. You know, this is why. Don't nobody care about any of that. If you did it wrong, I want you to tell me how you're going to do it better. And so let's make that the priority.
Yeah. It's a brave thing to do, but it's really necessary. And I think it falls on leadership to do that, to really say to set that culture, right?
Yeah.
Number 4, This is really fun. Speak up, give feedback.
Yep. So you gotta, if you're gonna actually seek and expect it, you also have to be willing to give it. So that means when you see something that's not quite right, you've got to be willing to lean in and actually like say, hey, this is not okay. And here's what that means. In this session, I actually give people some direction on like how to do that, you know, in some ways that can feel more safe, I guess. And it's so funny because Nick, when you were going through your, what was it called in the beginning? Your secure the perimeter. Yeah. And you were saying that you ask people, you know, well, what do you mean by that? Right. One of the things I often tell people that I use routinely is when I see something that's not quite right, or specifically hear something that's not quite right, the statement I will say is, say more about that. Because it makes the person play it back in their brain. Like, oh, wait, what did I say? And then when they do that, a lot of times they'll catch it like, oh, I realized that maybe I shouldn't have said that way. And they will adjust it themselves. And so I thought that was a great nugget on your part, you know, just in terms of that. But yeah, seek and expect feedback also means you got to be willing to give it to other folks. Because again, it gives them the opportunity to grow as well.
Beautiful. Let's hit those steps. Let's hit these steps. All snap. It's getting quick. Petit allegro, échappé, glissade, assemblée. We're jumping. We're getting off the floor. You know, let's see that again. Let's play that back.
How are their knees? How are their knees doing at this moment?
They're young and spry. They're fresh.
Look at that.
Knees.
Yes, ladies. Thank you so much. It's so great. Carrington and Kennedy just giving us life. Let's hit number 5. Here we go. We are progressing through this. Be an attentive listener.
Yes. Number 5 is being an attentive listener. And being an attentive listener is not just being an active listener. So we know active listening is, oh yeah, I understand that. Attentive listening is 2 really important things. 1, make sure that you are able to listen with your ears and not with your mouth. How often are we listening with our mouths? Oh my God, that happened to me too. Let me tell you about it. Blah, 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 blah. We take the story from people. Listen with your ears, right? So listen, understand instead of having a response. And then also be a confident listener. Be as good at listening as you are at sharing. So that means on those Zoom calls, when you have that awkward silence, lean into the silence because you're listening. You got to give folks a chance to speak. And so it's actively, you know, purposefully listening, but also being confident in that space is what attentive listening is about.
So good. Are we ready to take it to the dancers? All right, let's give it. Number 5, our dance step. We're in the Grand Allegro. We've taken it to the streets, y'all. Tombe pas de bourrée, glissade, grand jeté. Okay. Now, I don't know about this dance surface, but I think that they felt like they just had to get the message out. That's what I'm saying. So let's just play that one more time. Carrington and Kennedy Ben of the Jones Haywood Dance School. Lots of young, beautiful Black dancers at the Jones Haywood Dance School. And again, this was directed by Dionne Figgins, a friend of the show. And she's also their instructor. She choreographed these moves for them. We were so happy to have our demonstrators. That is 5, 6, 7, 8 of equity, diversity, inclusion in 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. We do have more parts though. We didn't get to the end, so we're gonna lean more. We're gonna lean further in because it's really not that simple, y'all. So exercise empathy.
Yeah. So this one is. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
I was literally gonna make a stupid joke, but it has nothing to do. I was gonna say we cut it down to 5 so we could allow these wonderful young people to save their bodies because they're
okay. They're fine. They're training. Allyship is not dangerous. No one
was
hurt in this. No one.
We're going to talk about that after the show.
I mean, it might be uncomfortable. Allyship can be uncomfortable.
Nothing will get hurt but your feelings temporarily. That's
correct.
Damn. Okay, let's get it.
So the last step is exercising empathy. And really what this is about is, you know, there's a lot of folks that are like, oh, I'm trying to be an ally. I'm trying to be an advocate. And so I want to make sure people know I care. This is that part of it. And what I try to do in this section is really give you some language because I think a lot of people don't know how to come across authentically, haven't made the investments in relationships appropriately to know how to exercise empathy in a way that matters. And also understand that just because you're exercising empathy to someone doesn't mean they're ready to receive it. People can be resistant or skeptical. That does not mean you should stop. So that's what exercising empathy is about. Sometimes you're not getting the reward. It's about the person that you're aiming to support.
Incredible. It's an exercise. You got to work it out. Don't stop.
It is an exercise. That's it.
That's amazing.
I think we moved on into some advocacy as the process where someone with privilege and power is willing to take steps to protect, advocate for, and dismantle systems against marginalized groups of people, or a marginalized group of people. So, steps to advocacy.
This is the last. Yeah, this is the last step. So taking personal risk. So a lot of times we hear this allyship advocacy, and it's kind of like this stair step thing. But really, allyship is more about the person. It's about what you are doing to build relation, community, empathy, connection with an individual or a group of folks that are not just like you. Advocacy is about the system. So it's about being very purposeful about, wait, this process isn't working. It's working for me, but not for you. Let's interrupt that. Oh, wait, you're going to be unsafe if you do that. Well, I can do it and I won't have any problems. So let me take care of it. It's about interrupting the system. And so essentially, when you're thinking about that, that means you've got to put yourself in the line or in the way or in, some degree of obstruction to whatever the system or process is. And that's when you get to the point of actually being an advocate instead of just an ally.
Wow. That body, put that body in the thing. Here we go. We have some usable phrases.
Look, y'all lifted all the little content. You were like, let me take all these nuggets.
We're giving the people just a taste, y'all, but for the low price of Walmart. There's a Walmart sale going on.
It's the YouTube version. So these are useful phrases. When we were talking about empathy and how to show up and use empathy, these are some useful phrases that you can use for like colleagues or people that you don't know really well. This is kind of a good way to say, I don't really know you super well, but I've seen you enough and I've been working with you. Maybe I want to lean in and check to see how you are. And then you probably have phrases to avoid. If you flip I'm guessing, I've taken over the show. This is how you know I run a business, right? All right. So the statements to avoid, just as a point of note, these are not things that you should never, ever, ever say. These are great to say with people you know really well. Like you can hit your friend up at any time and say, hey, are you okay? Just checking in. But when you're trying to serve as an ally or an advocate, like this can be a little too casual, a little too light of a touch. I don't know you like that. You're talking about, am I okay? We are all in a pandemic. What do you mean? It's not meaty and toothsome. You need some toothsome stuff. And so you want to avoid these unless you have a relationship established already when you're trying to exercise your empathy.
That's beautiful. I love that. Can you tell me what to do? It's like, nah, I'm busy.
Oh, this is
so busy managing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have time.
Beautiful.
To what to do. So this is just a snapshot of like what you can dig into in the book. My book, Allies and Advocates. So if you wanted to kind of read about those steps or
and it comes with like interactive materials as well, right? Like if you buy the book, you can put in and get some of these if you wanted to use this in, an organization or in your life or in your family, before Thanksgiving. Like if you want to implement like, before this Thanksgiving, just implement like a little workshop.
Or whatever holidays that you are trying to
whatever holiday.
Whatever it is. Like you're
like people like already looking forward. Like, yes, your vaccination, your July 4th vaccinated barbecue.
Whatever it is how that goes.
Will you tell us a little bit about your work with Brown Girls Do Ballet?
Yeah, absolutely. Brown Girls Do Ballet I chair this organization and it's amazing. It's my favorite thing. And the organization is focused on providing a mentorship network, community resources, actual resources. We send out point shoes. We have a point shoe program. We support small studios. There's a lot of things that this organization is geared towards supporting brown girls doing ballet. So that is all ranges, as you can see in our logo with the patchwork ballerina there. We also have another logo. Wait, what side is that? I don't know which side. It's like reversed. I'm like, wait, materials of these? Yeah. So there's also the patchwork face, Bella's face there that we also use. And so, essentially what I do is kind of set the strategic direction, try to make sure we're fundraising, and then also making decisions about how we are selecting ambassadors to represent the organization and making sure that they get mentorship. So we do that work as well. So this is my passion place
I love
in terms of work that I do. Yeah.
It's so incredible. I
amazing.
mean, we'd love to have some of your dancers on the show. Like once we have this connection now, so we'll probably do. We really like our ballet game. So
I
we'd
love
to
it. You see my shoes back here. Look, I'm like, what size? Like,
yes.
That's my last pair of shoes I danced in. So yeah, there was a time. It is a long time ago, but there was a time.
To
That is
rest.
so cool. That
To
is so cool.
rest. We had the donate link up there if anyone's interested in Brown Girls Do Ballet. We'll have that on our links and things so you can support. This has been incredible. It's so insightful and just real work that's happening. I think it's like there's a lot of ideas and a lot of conversation going out there, but how these things are being implemented and what's possible and from what direction that, those things come from. Like we said, internal, external, what can you do? What's your personality? Where does that allow you to engage best? I hope it's been informative for anybody feeling like they're still trying to figure out where to put their hands.
There's nothing wrong with collecting a check, y'all, just so you know. Like, I mean, seriously, working in a company is still a path, and it is a great path. It's just that good health insurance. Like, listen.
I think we have to go, but I want to I'm gonna shut up after this because you're gonna take us out with our classic. But I would love to hear from you how you think about in general in your work. We're collecting a check. You got to do this. You got to get paid because we live in, we've talked about it. We live in the system. The businesses have influence. But I don't know if I were to ask you, is that your ideal world? Is that your ideal structure to like how society works? Would that be a yes or no? And how do you, what does that look like, sort of that wrestling with, or that, dealing with the structures that be versus maybe the structures that we want to see, the different things, and how you can, we're trying to like craft. And like Nick said, we're trying to figure out how to operate within the system, but not really knowing if the system ultimately works. And then how do you do it? How do you build the plane in the sky? How do you, much less build it in the sky? How do you deconstruct it and put it back together while you got passengers on board? Right.
It's so I love your question. It is a hard question. I did not expect that I was gonna get dragged by my hair on this YouTube live stream today, but it's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna rise to the occasion and try my best to answer that on the fly. So my personal perspective is in terms of the entire system, I think for anything to function, it has to fail. Otherwise, you're really surfing on borrowed time. And in the grand scheme of things, this nation is young. If you think about the age of many others, if you think about, just even historical, Chinese dynasties, we're young, this is a young nation. And with that in mind, while I do enjoy many comforts of capitalism, while I do have lots of privilege that I get to enjoy and work very hard to continue to have it, the work that I do is about equity. And I want that at whatever the cost, whether I'm here or not. And so I am of the opinion that we don't really know for sure if a lot of the things that are happening are working until they fail. And there are a lot of things that are failing right now. I don't necessarily think that means we need to deconstruct all of them at once. But I do think that the answer is to stop and start over. And that's for a lot of things. I do think that we should reevaluate what it means to have healthcare in this country, or you're going to Band-Aid it until it just really isn't going to stop the bleeding anymore. Right. And so there are a lot of things that I think need that kind of attention. What I don't think has to happen is all of it at once. And so figuring out how to prioritize that, thankfully, is not my job. But what my job is to get people to say, like, okay, this isn't fair. What about, and this is a question I actually give clients all the time, like, is the system right? Is the system that I'm using to hire talent right? It might be good. It might be effective. I might have great people, but if I don't have any brown folks, queer folks, tall folks, whatever, LGBTQ folks, whatever, if I don't have those folks, am I assuming that the system works and those people aren't good enough? Or is it possible that the system isn't working? And so asking yourself that is the deconstruction. Oh, wait, the system might not be working. Well, let's scrap that. What would a system look like that works? And then you kind of got to go through it again and figure out, like, okay, now I have this new system. And again, you don't know if it works until it starts to break down. Then you get to figure out, wait, maybe this is or isn't working. You get to decide if it's we can repair or we need to replace. And so that's my general disposition on that. About like doing that for the world. Thankfully, that's not in my bucket.
Yeah. That's so great. It was just great. And I mean, I have no idea what the answer to that is either, but I was like, from people who are doing the work in the air, like, it's really nice to hear like how you're trying to move through this.
Yeah, I'm trying. I am definitely trying. And I'm trying to help wherever you work, folks. Wherever you are working, I'm trying to help them too.
Yes.
Well, and I you're trying, you're succeeding as well. So that's, I mean, it really, there's a lot of amazing impact and thoughts that you have out there that people need to hear. So thank you for being here. We want to wrap up. We know we've gone a little over, but it's so necessary because this is an amazing guest. And we just want to, the last thing we want to know from you before you get sick of us and never come back here again.
That will not happen. New friendships budding. Come on.
Yeah. So we have a tradition here on the Chaos Twins. We love I guess we call them the James Lipton 10. I don't know what we call them. I always get confused.
We don't know. We haven't decided yet. We're in development. It's fine. Keep going.
It's fine. But the questions that James Lipton used to ask on Inside the Actors Studio are questions that we love not only to ask actors, but just anybody who is...
They're great questions.
Breaking barriers. Yeah, and we would love to ask you those questions.
Let's go.
So let's do it. Let's do it. Rapid fire. Let's spit them out. So, Amber, what is your favorite word?
Esoteric.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
No.
That's a popular one. Yep.
No.
What turns you on?
Oh, great food. A good bath. A sunset. All of them. Champagne. Like, yes.
I love it. What turns you off?
Oh, anything that smells bad. That smells like, I can't do it.
Nice. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, I love a cork popping.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Babies crying. I mean, yeah. I have no children, by the way, people. So,
I get it. What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
That's the correct answer.
It works. It's the most effective.
Every time. What profession other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Oh, that's a good one. See, I have heard these before, but geez, I forgot about that one.
Mm-hmm.
God knew not to let me sing, but I would love to sing. Yeah.
All right, singer. What profession other than your own would you least like to attempt?
Oh. I can't see me working in any kind of plant, like a treatment plant, a car plant. I grew up in Detroit. I've seen it. I'm good. No plants for me.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, no plants.
And finally, if God is real, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Let's have a cocktail.
Yes.
That's the one.
We should celebrate that. If I make it to the pearly gates, shoot.
Cocktails.
Let's do it.
Palomas,
I hope it's a
margaritas.
cocktail on the other side. Oh my God. Yeah, something bubbly. A pop. You want to hear that sound.
That's it. Something bubbly. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope it's a celebrated arrival instead of a rejection. So,
like, oh dang, she got in for real. Oh,
right.
Oh, this is good.
Well, she gonna have some suggestions about how we run and stuff. So
that's it. Get ready.
I love it.
More equitable heaven. Okay.
Amber, it's been such a pleasure and a privilege having you on the show. Thank you for being here. Really, really, from the bottom of our hearts. And
thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been great. I've laughed a lot. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to come back and have better answers. So
your answers were great. They were killers. So
they were
fantastic.
Please go to
AmberCabral.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Chaos Twins. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Thank you to Beyonce Britt in the studio, holding it down, being amazing. We will be back in 2 weeks. Yes. To do another one of these. So we'll see you then. Deuces, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.